And thanks to my family. Who put up with missed soccer games, lacrosse games, football games, volleyball games, swim meets, and rugby games, all to put up with this, so thank you. And a special thanks to my husband, Jason. Through 4 kids, 2 dogs, a hamster, numerous goldfish, 5 campaigns, an insurrection, and 2 impeachments, you have been a truly amazing partner. So thank you to everyone who's joined me in fighting for a better future. I know these are tough times. I know not everyone voted for me, but I'm working for everyone. Every single one of you. When we all do better, we all do better. So tomorrow begins a new day. And at each new day in New Jersey, the sun rises over the Statue of Liberty, a daily reminder of her promise. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. She declares that her lamp lights the path to the golden door. That golden door is New Jersey. It always has been. And that expectation is well deserved, especially after this election, where we chose, we're going to follow Lady Liberty's beacon. We're not going to give in to our darker impulses. Here in New Jersey, we know that this nation has not ever been, nor will it ever be, ruled by kings. We take oaths to a constitution, not a king. We've chosen liberty, the very foundation of democracy, and we've chosen prosperity necessary to create opportunity for all. So New Jersey, to quote the boss, the future is now. Roll up your sleeves, let your passion flow. The country we carry in our hearts is waiting. Thank you, New Jersey.
From the Associated Press, this is an Election Night 2025 update. Live from Washington, here is Meg Kennard.
Welcome back. Just to give you a recap of where we are at this hour, the Associated Press has declared Democrat Zohran Mamdani the winner of the New York City mayor's race. You've been seeing on your screen images coming into us from his election night headquarters there in New York. And we are now going to go there with AP correspondent Philip Crowther to give us a sense of what it's like on the ground as we wait for Mamdani to make remarks. Philip?
Yeah, and you can, of course, see the contrast right now in the boxes you have on your screen. One event, that's the one where I'm at, this is Zohran Mamdani's election night party, is lively. There's obviously a celebratory atmosphere. There are occasional shouts of joy here, maybe when a leading Democratic politician walks around, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the congresswoman from New York. She is here, for example. David Hogg, vice president of the Democratic National Committee, is here as well. These are people who right now are giving interviews to the media, a huge number of media representatives here as well. So a very lively scene here in downtown Brooklyn. Very different in Manhattan. You can see those images right now as well. From Mr. Cuomo's headquarters, his election night party. Not that much of a party, of course, right now. Expectedly, the former governor of New York State, who ran in the Democratic primary against Zohran Mamdani and lost, and then ran again tonight in the mayoral election as an independent. Andrew Cuomo goes out of this race for mayor of New York as one of the losers, of course, along with Curtis Sliwa. He was the Republican candidate for mayor of New York City. He has already given his speech once it became clear that he was not going to win this election. That, of course, would have been an incredibly big surprise. What we are now waiting for here in downtown Brooklyn is, of course, the victory speech by Zohran Mamdani, the 34-year-old member of the New York State Assembly, who once upon a time, not that long ago, was definitely not the favorite to win this race and was very much an outsider. He has sprung a huge surprise. When you go back just a few months, the Democratic Party primary was in June, and just before that, well, pretty much no one gave him a chance of even becoming the candidate for the Democratic Party. Well, we now expect to see him on stage relatively soon to give his victory speech. As I mentioned, some stars of the left wing, if you will, of the Democratic Party are here. A big reaction certainly here for the likes of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Remember that she campaigned with Zohran Mamdani along with Senator of Vermont Bernie Sanders. These two of the big supporters of Zohran Mamdani, both of course also describe themselves, as does Mamdani, they describe themselves as democratic socialists. We again are hearing some shouts of celebration here in the room. Maybe that is an indication that we're getting a little bit closer to the speech by Zohran Mamdani. I can tell you at this point that we have not been given any indication by the campaign exactly when he will be taking the stage. What we did have, though, was a very early race call by the Associated Press, around 45 minutes after polls closed here in New York City at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That is when it became official that Zohran Mamdani was going to become the next mayor of New York City. He will be inaugurated in January. And the call came so early, in fact, that quite a few of his supporters who had been lining up outside to get into this venue hadn't entered yet. They entered to the news that their favorite candidate was going to become the next mayor of New York City. Generally, though, there is very much a celebratory atmosphere, not just here at the headquarters for Zohran Mamdani, but also in Democratic Party circles right now, with those two victories in the race for the governorship in Virginia and in New Jersey, and obviously here, the victory for Zohran Mamdani. Those are three very high-profile Democratic wins tonight here. Of course, for Zohran Mamdani, it's not a surprise that a Democrat wins in New York City. But for someone who describes himself as a democratic socialist, it is certainly a surprise, and something also that, of course, brought the ire of President Donald Trump. The White House has already commented on this victory by Zohran Mamdani with a meme that says that Donald Trump is your president. So the reactions coming in thick and fast. The most important one, of course, is going to be that of the candidate himself. Again, we expect Zohran Mamdani to be on stage here in downtown Brooklyn very soon indeed, and we will, of course, bring that speech to you live as well.
Thank you, Philip. We really appreciate those updates from Mamdani's headquarters. And I wanted to ask you, what are you hearing about Andrew Cuomo and his performance tonight? Is there any indication of how supporters of his might be feeling? You mentioned his performance tonight as an independent candidate after losing the Democratic primary, but what do we expect to see or hear from him tonight?
Well, what you'd expect to hear, logically, would be a concession speech from the former governor of New York. That has not happened yet. You can see in the images, obviously, that Andrew Cuomo's election night party is not exactly a very festive affair, because at the end of the day, he will have lost twice to Zohran Mamdani. First of all in June in the Democratic Party primary, and then tonight again in the race for mayor of New York City. We don't yet know what exactly the difference will be, the percentage difference between the two candidates, but it looks like this is going to be a pretty handsome victory indeed for Zohran Mamdani. And I think that most likely is going to be chalked up as, well, an embarrassment for the former governor of New York, who of course has a lot of political clout, who has a long history in New York state politics, the type of history that Zohran Mamdani obviously does not have. We should also mention at this point that there was, of course, a candidate for the Republican Party, Curtis Sliwa, who has run for mayor of New York before and lost again here tonight. not a surprise. Republicans don't tend to win when it comes to the mayor of New York City, but he again, it looks like, is not going to reach 10% of the vote. So for Andrew Cuomo, obviously a disappointing night, and I think it's time probably for analysts to look at whether this might mark the end of the political career of the former governor of New York. It is very possible. This was always seen as a generational battle between Zohran Mamdani, 34 years old, a new generation within the Democratic Party, and maybe the older guard represented here by the likes of Andrew Cuomo. We expect both of them to speak. We haven't heard from either yet. Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo, both of them will be giving their speeches, most likely within the next hour.
Thanks again, Philip. We will continue to keep images up from both campaign evening events. On your screen, you see Mamdani's campaign rally, and below that, Cuomo, where we do see the candidate taking the stage. We can bring you those comments. We also have live images with which we'll be leaving you, coming in from Minneapolis, which is electing a mayor tonight, as well as Detroit, where vote counting is occurring. But for now, let's listen in to former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who has lost the New York City mayoral race.
First, I love you too. I love you too. Let me acknowledge part of my special campaign team. We have from the right, Telef Lundaval, the new son-in-law, husband of Mariah. We have Mariah, Cara, Michaela. I want to thank our campaign chairman, Bill Mulrow, our great campaign manager, Greg Goldner. I want to thank Mayor Adams, who stepped out of the race to make us more competitive, and that was a very gracious thing to do. I want to thank Mayor Bloomberg, who gave us his support, Governor David Patterson, all the unions, and I am blessed. I am blessed to have the people in this room. You have been a phenomenal team. Great friends. You are superstars. Even more, you are New York patriots. And I am proud of you. This campaign was the right fight to wage. And I am proud of what we did and what we did together. This campaign was to contest the philosophies that are shaping the Democratic Party, the future of this city, and the future of this country. And this coalition transcended normal partisan politics. It brought together Democrats and Republicans and independents, joined by the simple fact that their first allegiance is as citizens of New York City. Two million voters, the largest number in modern political history, cared enough to show up in a municipal election. And 42% voted for us on an independent line. That is the highest percentage in modern history. Ironically, it is just higher than when Mario Cuomo got 40% on an independent line against Ed Koch in 1977. It's also important to note that almost half of New Yorkers did not vote to support a government agenda that makes promises that we know cannot be met. We support an economy of jobs, of opportunity, of entrepreneurship That's what New York is, and that's what New York must remain. We are a nation of laws, and we believe in law and order, and we need the police to keep society safe. We will not make the NYPD the enemy. We cherish our diversity, and we have no tolerance for discrimination of any kind by race, religion, sexual orientation, or creed. And we will not tolerate any behavior that fans the flames of anti-Semitism or diverse attacks. Our strength is our unity. Black, white, brown, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, we are one. We are the family of New York. We believe in interconnection and mutuality and codependence. And you attack one of us, you attack all of us. That is what it means to be a New Yorker. No one and nothing will ever divide us. And this campaign was necessary to make that point. A caution flag that we are heading down a dangerous, dangerous road. Well, we made that point, and they heard us, and we will hold them to it. Also, my friends, feel proud, because we accomplished the two important New York characteristics. We got up off the mat after the primary, and we made it a real race when the media had already commenced the coronation. And feel proud, because we fought our hearts out and we left it all on the field. Congratulations to Zohran Mamdani. That is not right. That is not right, and that is not us. That is not us. Tonight was their night, and as they start to transition to government, we will all help any way we can, because we need our New York City government to work. We want it to work for all New Yorkers, because our city is the greatest city in the world, and we will unite for New York City because we love New York City. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank each and every one of you. I love you for the fight you made, for the soul that you showed, and the example that you set. New York City heard us, and we will be the better for it. Thank you, and God bless you.
Tribeca, right next to the narrow, but I'll be hood forever. I'm the new Sinatra.
You've been listening to a concession speech from former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo as he acknowledges that he is not the winner of tonight's New York City mayoral race, which the Associated Press has declared was won by Democrat Zohran Mamdani. So joining me again is Sagar to kind of talk about this race. And now that we've seen the concession speech from Andrew Cuomo, we're still waiting on Zohran Mamdani. But Cuomo obviously is a very well-known figure in New York politics. He had run as a Democrat in the primary, lost to Mamdani to begin with, and ran as an independent in the general. Talk to us a little bit about the tenor of this speech. It sounded like he was really being willing to work with Mamdani's administration there in New York City.
Cuomo's argument the whole time had been that he, as a former governor, had the experience to do this. Ready on day one. They literally had that sign at his event site. That he looks at a guy who is roughly half his age. Mamdani's 34, Cuomo's 67, beating him. Where else is there to go than to say, hey, maybe I can help the guy. Maybe I can help them, because the outstanding question right now is Mamdani ran this very ambitious campaign. How do you go about staffing that? How do you actually go about delivering on what some critics say are undeliverable promises that you've now made? Maybe he can get an ally in Andrew Cuomo, a man who ran the entire state and could have run the city. Cuomo, again, this is now his second loss to Mamdani. That has to sting as a man who held the highest elected office in that state. If he is in fact willing to help, one would think that would have to be a boon for the other people. He has the organizational skills. He has the veteran operatives around him that Mamdani may not. As a 34-year-old, the youngest mayor in more than a century, now running America's biggest city, you're going to need some help. And maybe he can find that now in Andrew Cuomo.
And it's not unusual for us to see that in various administrations at different levels, for a candidate to come in with perhaps less executive experience, bringing in someone with more experience. I mean, I'm thinking about presidential administrations of both parties in the last couple of decades that have done exactly that when picking their vice presidents, for example. You
have to bring in the veteran hand, and it'll be interesting what that dynamic would look like and what role, if there is an official role, we're projecting way ahead now, that Andrew Cuomo may in fact play there.
Yeah, for somebody like Andrew Cuomo, who's been in politics in and around New York for a very long time, you'd wonder what that next step is. But perhaps he sees it as being some assistance to Zohran Mamdani, or maybe that's just a gracious concession of what you say on an election night when you have been bested by your opponent, not once, as you point out, but twice, and so now trying to move forward just in a classy way.
And this was a chance. I mean, this, for as stunning as Mamdani's ascent has been, remember Cuomo's spectacular fall 4 years ago as governor. This could have been a comeback for the ages. Clearly that fell apart, and like you said, who knows what comes next, but he did at least show the grace in the speech. He didn't go after him. It was a polite speech, for lack of a better phrase.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for that. We can now also go back to New York City, where we have Philip Crowther joining us again from Zohran Mamdani's campaign night headquarters. We've yet to hear from the candidate himself, but Philip, what are you seeing in those comments that we heard from former Governor Cuomo today?
Well, look, it's only a matter of time, I think, before we see Zohran Mamdani here on stage. His supporters, who are here in their droves and have now been celebrating since the race was called, they were able to watch Andrew Cuomo's concession speech. We are here in downtown Brooklyn. Andrew Cuomo spoke in Manhattan. A concession speech in which Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, was able to silence the boos from the crowd when he congratulated Zohran Mamdani. I can tell you that here at Mamdani's election night party, there were plenty of boos as well once they saw that Andrew Cuomo, who was Mamdani's opponent not once but twice during the Democratic primary and today in the race for mayor of New York, when they saw that he was about to begin his concession speech. And the moment when he left the stage, when they saw that on camera, and again, they only saw that, but were not able to hear it. You can hear the loud music here at the venue. They essentially all waved him goodbye, happy to see the back of a man who twice tried to beat Zohran Mamdani and twice failed, after all, because it was in June when the Democratic Party held its primary, and that is when Andrew Cuomo was still a candidate for the Democratic Party and lost, surprisingly, to Zohran Mamdani. This time along, Cuomo appeared as an independent candidate, having lost the primary for the Democratic Party and lost again to Mr. Mamdani. We will have to wait and see exactly how large the difference is, the percentage difference between the two candidates in the end. But certainly this victory by Zohran Mamdani came quickly, and it came as a surprise, certainly the speed at which it came to a lot of people here in this room. It's very loud in here. You could probably make that out quite easily. A DJ playing music here right now while we expect Zohran Mamdani to appear on stage. And some of his biggest supporters, certainly over the last few weeks during campaigning, well, they are here in the room with him, or at least in the building with him, because Mamdani is still to appear on stage, of course. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one of them, the congresswoman representing New York. She is here, and she has been making the rounds, giving all sorts of interviews. She, of course, campaigned together with Mamdani and Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, two of the other politicians who consider themselves democratic socialists, just as Zohran Mamdani does as well. Everybody here knows what the promises were from Mamdani when he was to become mayor of New York City. He will be inaugurated in January. He has promised free childcare. He has promised free public buses. He has promised to freeze the rent on rent-controlled apartments in New York City. All of those considered very populist, but certainly also very popular messages with his supporters here in downtown Brooklyn. And they will certainly want to see those promises repeated here on stage when Mamdani does eventually give his victory speech. The way things go on these election nights, be it during a primary somewhere in the United States or be it during a presidential election, you tend to wait for the concession speech first, let a little bit of time elapse for people to get excited about their candidates coming on stage, and then he or she does, of course, do that. And that is exactly where we find ourselves now, awaiting Zohran Mamdani and his victory speech. When he does give it, and we haven't been given any indication from the campaign as to exactly how long that is going to take, we will, of course, come back here to New York and bring you that speech live.
So, Philip, you've mentioned some of the other Democratic Party celebrities. It's a word that I'm not throwing around really, other than well-known political figures. But it also seems like there's perhaps some influencers and an energy in the room. Given Zohran Mamdani's age, given the fact that he has run this very digitally focused campaign, can you kind of bring us there? I mean, we can hear the noise behind you and see the excited people, but kind of bring us into that room and let us know exactly, who else are you seeing there, and what are they relating to you in terms of what their takeaways are from this kind of campaign that Mamdani has put together?
Well, I can certainly tell you that it's a very diverse group of people who are here in the room to see Zohran Mamdani's speech. Probably a very fair reflection of the people who supported him in this campaign and ended up voting for him as well for mayor of New York City. When you take a walk around here at the Paramount Theater in downtown Brooklyn, you see a lot of those supporters embracing each other, celebrating, of course, as well. But you're absolutely right to talk about the influencers, people who Zohran Mamdani has been speaking to in what was a very clear, conscious decision on behalf of his campaign, a digital-first campaign, if you will. Those people that he has been speaking to on the campaign trail, well, they are here in downtown Brooklyn tonight, and they are broadcasting this event live to their viewership as well. It is a very modern, a very innovative campaign that we've seen from Zohran Mamdani. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how that translates into his position in City Hall when he will have to make true on all of those promises that I just enumerated that he has made. Again, a very celebratory atmosphere, of course, here. It is not a surprise to hear that, and a huge contrast to what we just saw during that concession speech from Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York State, now a defeated candidate in the New York City Mayoral Election as well. Certainly not a festive atmosphere in Manhattan where he was during his election night party tonight.
Thank you, Philip, for those continued updates from there in New York City. We will keep up on our screen images coming to us from Mamdani's election night campaign headquarters. We do expect to see and hear the candidate, but we don't have an exact time. As Philip knows, and as I know, having covered campaigns across the country, there is a lot of waiting. Even when you expect that there's a victorious candidate who's going to be coming out and talking to you, you don't have an exact idea of exactly when that will be. And so we will keep up on our screen those live images coming in from Mamdani's election night headquarters. But we are now at 11 p.m. on the East Coast, which means that we are at our final round of poll closings for this evening. Voting is coming to an end in California. Out on the West Coast, that is where we've been watching a redistricting-related balloting Proposition 50 that we'll be talking about here in just a moment. Voting is also ending in Washington State. But with me back is Sagar now. And Sagar, let's talk about Proposition 50, Prop 50 as it's been known kind of in that shorthand lingo among political watchers and how it's been campaigned on. But remind us, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. What is Prop 50 and how have we kind of seen this campaign around it coming together, and what do we think its effects could be for other places in our country?
So you have an independent commission in California that draws the district maps that upon which the House seats are allotted. Proposition 50 basically is asking voters to suspend the maps that that commission draws and replace them with maps that the Democrat-controlled state legislature has basically rejiggered to give more control to Democrats. Could wipe out as many as 5 GOP districts right now. When you look at the House map going into the midterms next year, Democrats only need to gain 3 seats to retake control of the House from Republicans. So we're talking about potentially 5 seats just in California when you only need 3 to retake. So you can see the battle lines drawn. This was in response to Republicans mounting similar efforts in Texas and elsewhere. Gavin Newsom, the California governor, said, you know what, this is going to be a good nationwide push to kind of blunt what he saw as President Trump trying to essentially steal these seats. It's going to be a big deal heading into the midterms if Prop 50 passes, and then it'll be really interesting to see what other states this may then ripple through. Are you going to have pressure from the president on down, maybe a GOP governor, whomever it might be, but this is going to play out a lot in coming months, and the stakes are just massive going into the midterms.
Yeah, I remember when I was out on the campaign trail, you know, with Gavin Newsom earlier this year when he was talking about this same thing and now seeing it before voters. And now we can bring you a breaking alert that has just moved on the AP wire. The Associated Press has determined that voters in California have approved a U.S. House map designed to boost Democrats in 2026, aiming to blunt GOP changes elsewhere. That's exactly what Sagar and I were just talking about. So Sagar, let's go right back to it. We were right there at the poll close there in California where the AP was able to determine that these new maps were approved. As I was just noting before we had that breaking alert, I was out with Gavin Newsom, who's presumed to be one of the Democrats who will be campaigning for president here in a couple of years. And at that moment, he was talking about the situation in Texas and already talking about how he fully supported the notion of Democrats having their own maps. And there was a lot of criticism of what Texas Republicans were doing, but even months and months ago, Gavin Newsom was already out saying, well, why don't Democrats do this too? We certainly could in some places. As you just noted, there are other states that are already kind of casting forward, maybe in a slower, different sort of process than we see in California, but with legislatures considering these new maps. So it's kind of already a cascading effect, particularly now we see with this California decision today.
Yeah, and we'll see these cases come before state courts, perhaps even the Supreme Court, about just how legal it all is to do this mid-cycle. Keeping in mind the calculus for Republicans is the midterms of a presidential administration, 2 years in, that party usually takes a beating.
Right.
It's not going to take much for Republicans to lose that House majority, which obviously then puts a lot of the president's policies and agenda in turmoil. He's going to want to pull out all the stops to make sure that doesn't happen. And we've seen the sway that he has over Republicans right on down the line, from Congress into state houses, into governors' mansions. So the ripple effects of this could be pretty interesting to come. The impact for Gavin Newsom, whom we were talking about, this is a big win for him, right? Projected to be one of those folks who could run in 2028. He hasn't said much about it, but you know, this is a notch on the belt right there for him to be able to brag about getting this through. He had help from Barack Obama and some other prominent Democrats who also appeared in videos and talked about it on shows and things. So a big win for him, a big win for California Democrats, and I think now we're gonna see what happens down the line and what kind of response we may see from some Republican-led states as well.
Yeah, when we were talking earlier in the evening about former President Obama being involved in the gubernatorial contest that we've been following, but you're right, he did also opt to get involved in this redistricting conversation, which I think some people who follow politics were a little bit surprised by, since former President Obama has been relatively quiet and hasn't been as vocal in terms of not just electoral politics, but also the greater issues. But I guess at this point, he has decided to wade into a few different issues, and redistricting being one of them, saying that he supported the way that California was doing it. So not necessarily every method that a state could choose in terms of adding or changing their maps, but at least he was also giving not even a tacit stamp of approval. I want to just interrupt myself to point out that on your screen, you are now seeing new images coming into us from California in the lower left quadrant. That is where we expect California Governor Gavin Newsom to be holding a news conference on Prop 50, which we've just been discussing. And there is also some movement in the upper right quadrant. That is where we are awaiting New York City mayoral race victor Zohran Mamdani to address the supporters at his campaign rally there in Brooklyn. We've been talking all night with our correspondent there on the scene, but we do see someone at the podium now, so we do expect that we'll be hearing from the candidate himself here shortly. So we'll keep our eyes on that on the screen and certainly bring you Zohran Mamdani's comments as soon as they begin. So, Sagar, thank you for this analysis that we've been discussing about these redistricting vote that we've seen tonight in California and the other places where we've seen it happening. But there are no other states that are at that same stage in terms of having what they've been doing in California. At least there's legislative debates, right? But nothing that's actually before voters.
Nothing that's come to fruition like this, right, that has been presented to voters in and of itself, standalone, in a special election that has gotten anywhere near this type of, I mean, Barack Obama's 30-second video pushing for it a month ago, raced through social media. So, they brought out the star power for that. And getting back to what you said about former President Obama, relatively low-key, kind of playing post-presidency like George W. Bush has, not getting involved,
right,
not speaking out about a whole lot of things, unlike Donald Trump for those 4 years, very much like Joe Biden now. But, I mean, to give you a sense of what Obama has been like lately, he even pulled out one of the old greats when he was campaigning over the weekend in the governor's races: don't boo, vote. And the place went nuts. Right. Vintage 2008, 2012 Barack Obama trying to get Democrats energized again. And I think we're going to see a whole lot more of that. What was that math again?
364 days.
364 days till the midterms.
And
we'll be back and do it all again.
Thank you. We'll set our calendars and set our clocks now. We are going to return you to that live video that we've been talking about coming in from Zohran Mamdani's campaign election rally this evening. So we will leave you with those live images and be back with you soon.
I have been so honored to work with you, learn from you, and support you as you have faced unprecedented scrutiny and at times ugliness and threats from our opponents. You have built a historic campaign, so please give them all a round of applause. And please join me in celebrating the person who has been Zohran's right hand from day one, whose deep commitment to our movement and care for our people has infused every part of this campaign from top to bottom, and without whom we would not be here tonight, Elvis Church. This movement with grace, curiosity, good humor, and thoughtfulness. And this race has been difficult. He has been the subject of attacks and threats, but he has truly risen above it all to give us hope. So please join me in giving Zohran, our friend, a round of applause. to name, so I want to speak to everyone directly. Please raise your hand if you have given to this campaign, whether that is time, labor, knocking a door, hosting an event, creating art. And if you are one of the tens of thousands, this is beautiful, and if you are one of the tens of thousands of people who contributed but cannot be with us tonight, this is for you as well. You have made history. You set unreachable goals and then exceeded them. You believed in this city and believed in each other. And you achieved something that people will speak of for decades to come. You led with kindness and compassion. And most importantly, during a time of despair and rising fascism, you decided to fight for someone that you don't know. So thank you. Friends, the scope of this campaign was truly unprecedented. We had hundreds of thousands of conversations with our neighbors and trained leaders who will help us deliver our agenda for the next 4 years. But this record-breaking program did not come out of nowhere. It was the product of years of organizing and leadership development by New York City GSA and so many of our movement partners. And we were so fortunate to be led on this campaign by someone who has been a part of this work from the beginning. She led Julia Salazar's groundbreaking campaign in 2018. And since then has been behind the scenes in so many of our victories. If this campaign made you feel powerful, or taught you something, or showed you discipline, or brought you joy, you have this person to thank. She is caring, wise, and deeply committed to our movement. And I am sure she is backstage losing her mind at being called out like this. But I need everyone here to please join me in giving her the longest and loudest round of applause, our organizing director, Tasha.
Thank you. This is very exciting. Thank you, everyone. I'm Tasha, and I've had the honor of being the field director on this campaign. I first crossed paths with Zohran in 2017 on a city council campaign for Ciattarelli team in Bay Ridge. Zohran was the paid canvas manager, and I was volunteering on the campaign as a member of New York City Democratic Socialists of America. I don't think that we could ever have imagined that 8 years later, we would be here on election night for a mayoral campaign 104,000 volunteers strong. 104,000 volunteers. We love numbers, we love metrics, but I want to talk first about what's behind those numbers. Every number is, in a way, an act of bravery. Door knocking is not the easiest thing. For many, including myself, it takes a moment of bravery at the beginning, asking a stranger something about their lives and sharing something about yours. Sharing what you want to see in the world, it can be daunting. Thousands of people did it. And every time, every volunteer went to a door and talked to a stranger, they offered their vision to that stranger and invited that stranger to be a part of shaping their vision. We love strangers. Every door knock and every phone call is a statement of belief that politics is for all of us. This campaign and this city is all of ours to shape. I also want to say something about field leads. All of our canvases, for those who don't know, all of our canvases have been led by volunteers we call field leads. Many of them are here. Most led a shift every week, and some led a shift every week since December. And every time they led a canvass, and they were the ones welcoming new volunteers into our movement. They were the ones who helped inspire folks coming out to canvass for the first time. Without those 700 people who chose to step into leadership in an uncertain moment and try something new and scary, this field operation at this scale would not have happened. Those 700 people prove that leadership isn't about having all of the answers, it's about the willingness to step into the unknown and inspire others to imagine something better. So here are the numbers. Over 104,000 volunteers made over 4.4 million calls. At around noon today, a volunteer knocked our 3 millionth door. Over 700 field leads have led over 5,700 canvasses in 243 neighborhoods. 6,568 voters signed up to volunteer on the spot when they were canvassed by somebody. 8,389 voters signed up to volunteer when they were asked by a phone banker. These are unprecedented numbers. The bravery that you all have shown, that this field operation carried across all 5 boroughs, is going to transform our city. What all 100,400 of us have accomplished has rewritten the possibilities of mass democratic action. And it doesn't stop tonight. We all know that we won't stop at electing Zohran. We will continue to fight to bring the affordable of New York City to life. I am so excited to do that with all of you. And now I'm so honored to introduce the person you've been waiting to hear. We've worked for many years to bring about change in New York City that it so urgently needs. He's been a friend, and he is the next mayor of the greatest city on earth, Zohran Mamdani.
Thank you, my friends. The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty. I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name as we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few. New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change, a mandate for a new kind of politics, a mandate for a city we can afford, and a mandate for a government that delivers exactly that. On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City. And that is because of you. So before I say anything else, I must say this. Thank you. Thank you to the next generation of New Yorkers who refused to accept that the promise of a better future was a relic of the past. You showed that when politics speaks to you without condescension, we can usher in a new era of leadership. We will fight for you because we are you. Or as we say on Steinway, ana minkum wa ilaykum. Thank you to those so often forgotten by the politics of our city who made this movement their own. I speak of Yemeni bodega owners and Mexican abuelas, Senegalese taxi drivers and Uzbek nurses, Trinidadian line cooks and Ethiopian aunties. Yes, aunties. To every New Yorker in Kensington and Midwood and Hunts Point, know this. This city is your city, and this democracy is yours too. This campaign is about people like Wesley, an $11.99 organizer I met outside of Elmhurst Hospital on Thursday night. A New Yorker who lives elsewhere, who commutes 2 hours each way from Pennsylvania because rent is too expensive in this city. It's about people like the woman I met on the BX33 years ago, who said to me, I used to love New York, but now it's just where I live. And it's about people like Richard, the taxi driver I went on a 15-day hunger strike with outside of City Hall, who still has to drive his cab 7 days a week. My brother, we are in City Hall now. This victory is for all of them, and it's for all of you. The more than 100,000 volunteers who built this campaign into an unstoppable force. Because of you, we will make this city one that working people can love and live in again. With every door knocked, every petition signature earned, and every hard-earned conversation, you eroded the cynicism that has come to define our politics. Now, I know that I have asked for much from you over this last year. Time and again, you have answered my calls. But I have one final request. New York City, breathe this moment in. We have held our breath for longer than we know. We have held it in anticipation of defeat. Held it because the air has been knocked out of our lungs too many times to count. Held it because we cannot afford to exhale. Thanks to all of those who sacrificed so much, we are breathing in the air of a city that has been reborn. To my campaign team, who believed when no one else did, and who took an electoral project and turned it into so much more, I will never be able to express the depth of my gratitude. You can sleep now. To my parents, Mama and Baba, you have made me into the man I am today. I am so proud to be your son. And to my incredible wife, Rama, Hayati, there is no one I would rather have by my side in this moment and in every moment. To every New Yorker, whether you voted for me, for one of my opponents, or felt too disappointed by politics to vote at all, thank you for the opportunity to prove myself worthy of your trust. I will wake each morning with a singular purpose: to make this city better for you than it was the day before. There are many who thought this day would never come, who feared that we would be condemned only to a future of less, with every election consigning us simply to more of the same. And there are others who see politics today as too cruel for the flame of hope to still burn. New York, we have answered those fears. Tonight we have spoken in a clear voice. Hope is alive. Hope is a decision that tens of thousands of New Yorkers made day after day, volunteer shift after volunteer shift, despite attack ad after attack ad. More than 1 million of us stood in our churches, in gymnasiums, in community centers, as we filled in the ledger of democracy. And while we cast our ballots alone, we chose hope together. Hope over tyranny. Hope over big money and small ideas. Hope over despair. We won because New Yorkers allowed themselves to hope that the impossible could be made possible. And we won because we insisted that no longer would politics be something that is done to us. Now it is something that we do. Standing before you, I think of the words of Jawaharlal Nehru. A moment comes but rarely in history when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of a nation long suppressed finds utterance. Tonight we have stepped out from the old into the new. So let us speak now with clarity and conviction that cannot be misunderstood about what this new age will deliver and for whom. This will be an age where New Yorkers expect from their leaders a bold vision of what we will achieve, rather than a list of excuses for what we are too timid to attempt. Central to that vision will be the most ambitious agenda to tackle the cost of living crisis that this city has seen since the days of Fiorella LaGuardia. An agenda that will freeze the rents for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. Make buses fast and free. And deliver universal child care across our city. Years from now, may our only regret be that this day took so long to come. This new age will be one of relentless improvement. We will hire thousands more teachers. We will cut waste from a bloated bureaucracy. We will work tirelessly to make lights shine again in the hallways of NYCHA developments where they have long flickered. Safety and justice will go hand in hand as we work with police officers to reduce crime and create a department of community safety that tackles the mental health crisis and homelessness crises head on. Excellence will become the expectation across government, not the exception. In this new age we make for ourselves, we will refuse to allow those who traffic in division and hate to pit us against one another. In this moment of political darkness, New York will be the light. Here, we believe in standing up for those we love. Whether you are an immigrant, a member of the trans community, one of the many black women that Donald Trump has fired from a federal job, a single mom still waiting for the cost of groceries to go down, or anyone else with their back against the wall, your struggle is ours too. And we will build a city hall that stands steadfast alongside Jewish New Yorkers and does not waver in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism. Where the more than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Not just in the 5 boroughs of this city, but in the halls of power. No more will New York be a city where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election. This new age will be defined by a competence and a compassion that have too long been placed at odds with one another. We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about. For years, those in City Hall have only helped those who can help them. But on January 1st, we will usher in a city government that helps everyone. Now, I know that many have heard our message only through the prism of misinformation. Tens of millions of dollars have been spent to redefine reality and to convince our neighbors that this new age is something that should frighten them. As has so often occurred, The billionaire class has sought to convince those making $30 an hour that their enemies are those earning $20 an hour. They want the people to fight amongst ourselves so that we remain distracted from the work of remaking a long broken system. We refuse to let them dictate the rules of the game anymore. They can play by the same rules as the rest of us. Together, we will usher in a generation of change. And if we embrace this brave new course, rather than fleeing from it, we can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. We will hold bad landlords to account because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. We will stand alongside unions and expand labor protections because we know, just as Donald Trump does, that when working people have ironclad rights, the bosses who seek to extort them become very small indeed. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. So hear me, President Trump, when I say this. To get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us. When we enter City Hall in 58 days, expectations will be high. We will meet them. A great New Yorker once said that while you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. If that must be true, let the prose we write still rhyme, and let us build a shining city for all. And we must chart a new path, as bold as the one we have already traveled. After all, the conventional wisdom would tell you that I am far from the perfect candidate. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this. And yet, if tonight teaches us anything, it is that convention has held us back. We have bowed at the altar of caution, and we have paid a mighty price. Too many working people cannot recognize themselves in our party. And too many among us have turned to the right for answers to why they've been left behind. We will leave mediocrity in our past. No longer will we have to open a history book for proof that Democrats can dare to be great. Our greatness will be anything but abstract. It will be felt by every rent-stabilized tenant who wakes up on the first of every month, knowing the amount they're going to pay hasn't soared since the month before. It will be felt by each grandparent who can afford to stay in the home they have worked for, and whose grandchildren live nearby because the cost of childcare didn't send them to Long Island. It will be felt by the single mother who is safe on her commute and whose bus runs fast enough that she doesn't have to rush school drop-off to make it to work on time. And it will be felt when New Yorkers open their newspapers in the morning and read headlines of success, not scandal. Most of all, it will be felt by each New Yorker when the city they love finally loves them back. Together, New York, we're going to freeze the... Together, New York, we're going to make buses fast and... Together, New York, we're going to deliver universal... Let the words we've spoken together, the dreams we've dreamt together, become the agenda we deliver together. New York, this power, it's yours. This city belongs to you. Thank you.
After his acceptance speech for winning that mayoral contest, the top race that we've been following here all night long. On the lower right-hand side of your screen, you're also seeing images coming in from an election night watch party with Mamdani's supporters. And in the lower left-hand quadrant, a screen where we're waiting on California Governor Gavin Newsom to appear. He's been campaigning heavily on the Prop 50 issue that passed in his state tonight, and we expect to be seeing him at some point. But now we're going to go back to New York City, where Philip Crowther has been following the Mamdani campaign this evening, and he is going to give us his update from the ground there in Brooklyn now that we have heard the candidates speak. Philip?
Yeah, on stage now alongside Zohran Mamdani, and in fact leaving the stage here in downtown Brooklyn as we speak. Zohran Mamdani, the mayor-elect of New York City, alongside his wife, who has made very few appearances on the campaign trail, and his parents, all of them receiving an homage from Mamdani during his victory speech here in downtown Brooklyn. This celebration now coming to an end. His supporters will now slowly but surely leave this theater, but not after having listened to a very, very enthusiastic speech from Zohran Mamdani, during which he again made those promises that he has made on the campaign trail for frozen rent on rent-controlled apartments in New York City, for free childcare in New York City, and also free buses, all of those very popular themes of Zohran Mamdani's campaign for mayor of New York City. The biggest applause, maybe, the moments when Zohran Mamdani came out on stage, naturally. But maybe the biggest shouts of enthusiasm also here in this theater in downtown Brooklyn, the moment when Zohran Mamdani took on Donald Trump by name. We weren't necessarily expecting that because Mamdani has been somebody who hasn't necessarily seen this as an election during which he had to go up against Donald Trump, despite the fact that he had been criticized at length by the president. But he here said that essentially this was the end of people like Donald Trump in New York City, members of what he calls the oligarchy, that the end of the likes of Donald Trump is happening in the city that saw him rise as well. He addressed Donald Trump directly here, knowing, in Zohran Mamdani's opinion, that the president was in fact watching this at the White House. He might well have done, because Donald Trump is a president who is very invested and very interested in this mayoral election here in New York City. A reminder also from Mandani that the big change here in New York City is still to come, of course. The inauguration of the mayor will be happening on the 1st of January, and that is when he says that a new era will begin for this city. He has celebrated the end of a political dynasty, in the words of Zohran Mamdani, still the 34-year-old member of the New York State Assembly and soon to be mayor of New York City. When he talks about the end of a political dynasty, he's talking about Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, who lost to him in the Democratic primary in June and has lost to him again here tonight as an independent in this run for mayor of New York City. As we see the last few moments here of Zohran Mamdani's victory party at his election night party here in Brooklyn, we expect to hear news from another very important man tonight. That is Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, on the night that Proposition 50 was voted through by the residents of California. We expect Gavin Newsom to be speaking soon, and we will be bringing you those images as soon as he takes the stage. In the meantime here, it's time for us to reflect on what will go down undoubtedly as a very successful night for Democrats indeed, with an expected win here in New York City for the mayor of the city, but also with victories in the races for the governorships in Virginia and New Jersey. Both of those pretty emphatic wins in the end for Democrats that were called pretty early as well, giving Democrats a lot of chances, a lot of time to celebrate. Of course, all of this capped off by the victory speech by Zohran Mamdani here in New York. It will be followed again very soon indeed by Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who will be speaking about Proposition 50 and who of course also is somebody who might have presidential ambitions of his own. With that, we'll leave you here from downtown Brooklyn and go back to Washington, D.C. and Meg Kennard as we expect Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, to speak.
Thank you, Philip, for that recap of tonight in New York City and your analysis of Zohran Mamdani's historic win there in the nation's largest city. As Philip mentioned, we are still awaiting comments from California Governor Gavin Newsom at this hour. The Proposition 50 campaign that deals with redistricting in that state, aimed at adding Democratic seats to the congressional delegation, has passed tonight. This is something that Gavin Newsom has campaigned for, something he's been mentioning as he travels across the state and across the country. Newsom is expected to be among the Democrats competing for his Democratic presidential nomination in 2028, and I've heard him mentioning it already along that campaign trail. So, Sagar, we can talk really briefly about what we heard from Mamdani and also maybe what we're expecting to hear from Newsom. This is kind of like the capstone to our election night coverage. But what was like your biggest takeaway from hearing Mamdani talk about his campaign and what he hopes to be accomplishing as mayor?
Reveling in saying that he's going to give the power back to the people of New York. He mentioned taxi drivers, he mentioned bodega owners, he mentioned aunties. He went up and down the line saying this was a mandate for change. We toppled a political dynasty before he went after Andrew Cuomo to a degree. It was the same message that we've been hearing, that power was concentrated, that it was for the rich New Yorkers. It wasn't for, again, the folks who own the bodega or own the other little corner store or drive the cab or work as nurses or whatever it might be. And he made it a point to list various ethnic groups, nationalities, right down the line, The question is, with all these promises that he's made that really electrified people and led to this just incredible rise that he's enjoyed, how does he now pull this off? Right, that's got to be the question that gets asked now. There's going to be a whole lot of work to do. I mean, he's talking about free city bus rides, free child care, government-run stores. How do you pay for that? Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, has been rejecting his pushes for higher taxes. That money's got to come from somewhere. So I think that's going to start being the question tomorrow is, okay, everybody bought into your idea. How do you do it?
How do you make it reality? And
that's the next step.
That's what we often hear when we're covering presidential campaigns and other campaigns across the country, campaign trail promises, but then what does that look like in reality? And is that something an executive can just wave a magic wand or sign an order and make happen? And
no, not without the money you can't, so that becomes the question.
Definitely. Now, as we're still awaiting Governor Gavin Newsom out in California, I just want to take stock of this evening, kind of take the big picture. We've seen certainly Democratic win in the New York City mayor's race. The Democratic-backed proposal in California was a win for them, as well as the two governor's races that we were following, New Jersey and Virginia. Taking stock of that and spinning forward to the midterms coming up next year, what do you consider is on the minds of Democrats and on the minds of Republicans as they're thinking about tonight and thinking about next year?
It has to give Democrats optimism because they swept everything big. I mean, in addition, there were some other ballot initiatives. We haven't even touched on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, where 3 Democratic justices who were up for what are called retention votes all won. Had they not, you could have had a whole lot of partisan roadblocks, for the next year in one of the biggest, most populous battleground states for the presidency. So that all bodes well. But if you look at this and say, okay, now there's a playbook. We can turn around our fortunes from 2024, and here's how we win in 2026. A few caveats. Limited states today, almost all of them were blue-leaning. That doesn't necessarily mean that works everywhere. And then you just have history that the president's party always takes a beating in off-year elections and always takes a beating in the midterms. So we even heard it from House Speaker Mike Johnson this morning, lowering expectations. So we think we're going to win all this? No. Do we hope we can? Yeah. But, they were, I don't want to say writing it off, but not.
Expectation management, though,
yes,
is always something
not projecting a whole lot of success. So, I mean, this will get spun any number of ways. The New York State GOP is already proudly saying Zohran Mamdani is now the face of the Democratic Party, and they do not mean that in a nice way. So we're going to see them seizing on that, saying, okay, this is the guy that they've put in the forefront. Is this what you want in 2026? I think we're starting to see the contours of that battle being drawn.
Right, absolutely. Sagar, as always, it has been a pleasure to spend this election night with you.
Where would we rather be?
Right here on set.
364 days.
Right here at the AP. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We are still awaiting those comments from California Governor Gavin Newsom, and actually we see him taking the stage now. We will leave you with these live images coming in from California. Thank you for being part of our live stream coverage tonight.
But what
Good
a
night.
night for the Democratic Party. A party that is in its ascendancy. A party that's on its toes, no longer on its heels. From coast to coast, sea to shining sea. But it was not just a victory tonight for the Democratic Party, it was a victory for the United States of America, for the people of this country and the principles that our founding fathers lived and died for. And so we're proud. We're proud here in California to be part of this narrative this evening. We're proud of the work that the people of the state of California did tonight to send a powerful message to an historic president. Donald Trump is an historic president. He is the most historically unpopular president in modern history. In every critical category, Donald Trump is underwater. He promised to make us healthier. He promised to make us wealthier. We're sicker and poorer. And he fundamentally understands that. Why else would he call Greg Abbott saying he's entitled to 5 seats? Why else is he trying to rig the midterm elections before one single vote is even cast? He understands his position at this moment in the United States of America. One thing he never counted on, though, was the state of California. Instead of agonizing over the state of our nation, we organized in an unprecedented way in a 90-day sprint. People from all over the United States of America contributed their voices and their support for this initiative. We stood tall and we stood firm in response to Donald Trump's recklessness. And tonight, after poking the bear, this bear roared with an unprecedented turnout in a special election with an extraordinary result. None of us, however, are naive. This is a pattern. This is a practice. Donald Trump's efforts to rig the midterm election continue to this day, and I'll reinforce that in just a moment. You're seeing him take action all across this country, not just in Texas. You saw what they were successful able to do in Missouri, what they did in North Carolina, what they're trying to do in Indiana, and inevitably in Florida. They are not screwing around. In June of this year, we saw 4,000 National Guard federalized in the state of California. We saw 700 active duty Marines not sent overseas, but sent to the second largest city in the United States of America to militarize our streets. We said in June this was a preview of things to come. What more evidence do you need than what happened in Washington, D.C., what's happening up in Portland, cities like Chicago? When we kicked off this campaign just 90 or so days ago in Little Tokyo, in Southern California, in LA at the Democracy Center, Donald Trump sent Greg Bovino. He sent his private police force that increasingly appears to have taken an oath of office to Donald Trump, not to the Constitution of the United States. He sent them to our kickoff rally to chill free expression, to chill free speech, to intimidate people from participating. Just today, in Los Angeles, Donald Trump called up the Border Patrol, sent them to Dodger Stadium, and threw a fastball at free speech, right at the head, free expression, to suppress the vote in America's second largest city. Just did that today. People in tactical gears sent out to intimidate a community that is already on edge. But you see, as we speak, people are still in line. People waiting up 3 hours to cast their vote, to send a message to Donald Trump. No crowns, no thrones, no kings. That's what this victory represents. It's a victory for the people of the state of California and the United States of America. And this is a victory that's punctuated with a sober reminder that it's not just the actions that Donald Trump has taken to federalize our guard, to begin the process of militarizing American cities, to intimidate free expression and speech by utilizing ICE and Border Patrol in America's cities. But he also announced today, right when polls were opening, that this election was rigged. That this election was rigged. Of course, those are familiar words. It's exactly what Donald Trump said after January 6th, that day of love, where he tried to light democracy on fire. He tried to wreck this country, and he called in to the Secretary of State in Georgia, calling up for 11,000, 12,000 votes, just like he called Greg Abbott, saying he's entitled to those 5 seats. He said this election was rigged, and he's moving to look for criminal prosecution and investigations at the Department of Justice. He is not screwing around. So tonight, I'm proud, but I'm very mindful and sober of the moment we are living in. Donald Trump does not believe in fair and free elections. Period and full stop. This is not complicated, and it's self-evident to anyone paying attention. You start to stack up all of these actions that continue to this moment and will continue in moments to come. If you think I'm exaggerating, consider his announcement just a few weeks ago to send rapid response teams all across the United States, in all 50 states, tens of thousands of members of the military prepared for urban deployment. A preview of things to come. But back to this state. Our state of mind was resolute. Our state of mind was resolved to stand firm and to stand tall, to not be intimidated, to not be humiliated, to not fall prey to cynicism, to not fall prey to fear and the anxiety of someone that believes in only one thing, shock and awe, to intimidate and exhaust us. But we're seeing all across this country, 7 million people strong, standing up, not just for themselves, but for each other and for these enduring and historic principles of our founding fathers. And I'll end on that. Next year is the 250th anniversary of the best of Roman Republic, the best of Greek democracy. This fundamental notion of a system of checks and balances, of popular sovereignty, the rule of law. Mr. President, the rule of law, not the rule of dawn. And I hope it's dawning on people. The sobriety of this moment, what's at stake. Tonight, as I said, is an extraordinary moment for our party, but again, it's an extraordinary moment affirming those principles. Our founding fathers did not live and die to see the kind of vandalism to this republic and our democracy that Donald Trump is trying to perpetuate. And so my call tonight, in the spirit of Whitman, we talked about the powerful play goes on. We all must contribute a verse. And so we need the state of Virginia. We need the state of Maryland. We need our friends in New York and Illinois and Colorado. We need to see other states with their remarkable leaders that have been doing remarkable things meet this moment head on as well, to recognize what we're up against in 2026. And let me make this crystal clear. We can de facto end Donald Trump's presidency as we know it the minute Speaker Jeffries gets sworn in as Speaker of the House of Representatives. It is all on the line, a bright line in 2026. And so I want to thank everybody that stood up, not just for our democracy, but stood up for those that have feel bullied and intimidated, stood up for this notion of co-equal branches of government and a system of checks and balances. And I want to thank my wife, who reminds me every single day that this is about those that feel alone, those that feel isolated, those that feel an anxiety and a stress that they never could have imagined in their lives. This was about saying to them, we have your back, we see you, you matter, we care. And I'll just say this, I'm confident as we move forward into 2026 in this country, the best is yet to come. Thank you very much.
What's the lesson for other Democrats from tonight? Do you think President Trump will hear the message?
Governor, you learned about ICE taking to the polls. Is there any evidence of that?
No, not really. So still up live.
where voting is going to be wrapping up in the next couple of hours, but we are seeing some long lines outside this polling location that you see as folks are getting off work and stopping by their polling place to cast their votes. We'll be back with you soon.